What's going on, movie fans, and welcome back to my channel, MovieFiles. Today we're discussing a new horror comedy by the name of The Blackening, which I got the opportunity to check out almost a month in advance, and I'm really excited to let you all know if this film is worth checking out in the middle of the summer. It's surrounded by The Flash, The Elementals, Transformers, so is this film something you should have on your watch list? We're going to be discussing that and much more in today's spoiler-free review, but first, I want to talk to y'all in the comments. Let me know if you were looking forward to seeing The Blackening, and of course, once you've seen it, did you have a good time? Did you have a good laugh? Let me know your thoughts on the film in the comments below. So yes, this was a film that when I saw the trailer a few months back, I said to myself, look, that looks funny as hell, but listen, we don't get as many comedies nowadays, and especially when you get a horror comedy, it's very rare, and it's also even more rare to get an all-black cast leading the way. So I said to myself, that looks funny, but did they give too much away in the trailer? Is it really going to be that funny when you see it in theaters? Well, I'm here to tell y'all, I had myself a very good time with this film, and I want to start off by talking about the director of this movie, who is Tim Story. Now, to be honest, Tim Story is kind of a mixed bag for me as a director. On one hand, I really enjoy his films like the Barbershop movies, what he's done with the Think Like a Man franchise. I'm a fan of the first ride-along film, but then when Tim Story does like the studio, higher produced films like the Fantastic Four or the Shaft remake or that terrible Tom and Jerry remake on HBO Max a few years ago, like I said, it's a mixed bag, but The Blackening and his direction is one of the better films in my opinion, because what I think he does in this film so well that he does in his other good movies, he allows the actors to naturally carry the story and in particularly flow well with the comedy being given to them on top of his style, his direction being a standout. So I really thought that Tim Story did a good job of allowing the jokes to run not too long. I didn't feel like he bogged down the story with like unnecessary drama. I was really happy with the direction that we got from Tim Story, so kudos to him. But now I want to transition into my favorite element about this film, and that is this incredible ensemble cast. To me, everyone had a moment to shine. Every one of the characters had a moment to make the audience laugh, and they just had great chemistry. I believe that they were friends. Again, without giving too much away, if you haven't seen a trailer, we have a group of friends who went to college together. They want to go on this kind of celebration on Juneteenth in the middle of the woods, which is a big no-no in the first place, but they're gathered together and they're being chased by this serial killer. But again, I really believe this friendship. You believe that they grew up together, and I really love the chemistry in this cast. But I will admit there were some standouts in this cast, starting off with Grace Byers, who plays Allison. Now, I haven't really been familiar with her work. I know she's done things on Empire, the TV show, as well as Harlem, but this was my first time being exposed to her, and this woman was hilarious, man. She is biracial in the film, and the moments when she has her blackness being on display and her whiteness being on display never got old. I really had a good time with her. But also I want to talk about Mayo as Shaniqua. Now, she's the friend that's always down to have fun, and she has this purse with her throughout this film, and she got everything you need, right? She's the friend you can lean on, and she has some really funny comedic beats in this film. And then my personal favorite of the cast is played by Dewayne Perkins, who is Dewayne in the film. He's a co-writer, but he's also one of the people a part of the short film that this movie is based upon, and Dewayne just has some of the funniest moments of the film. And then he has like a subplot and might all experience in real life, which is you have a friend you grew up with and you just kind of grow apart, right? But then you have these moments where you can really stand up for each other, appreciate each other's company. So Dewayne was hilarious to me, and again, the whole cast was great, but those were some of the standouts for me. But just some final points before we get into my criticism with the film. I do want to double down on the fact that you believe these characters would fight for each other and support each other as real friends. The script is so smart and really funny with the modern jokes that I think will have a lasting effect. It also does a great job at tackling the obvious stereotypes within their cultural friend group. And last thing I wanted to kind of mention is I love how this is kind of the first like really horror comedy that we've gotten since like Scary Movie, right? At least on this kind of Lionsgate producing it, seen it in the big screen. I'm sure that there's like black-led comedy parodies, on like streaming services, but as far as like a theatrical experience, and again, we don't get as many comedies as we do, like we did in the, obviously the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. Like comedy's been kind of bogged down, and if I'm being honest, a lot of the comedies, I know comedy's subjective, but a lot of them aren't funny to me. This ain't one of them. This film was hilarious, and I'm a fan of horror parody comedies going back to when I was a teenager growing up with the Scary Movie films. I really enjoyed that element of this movie, and again, I just want to to point out this film is not afraid to have its blackness on full display. It's not afraid to hold back on explaining to the white audience the black experience. And there's a joke, a running joke in this film involving the black anthem, which is just hilarious, as well as the board game they're playing and playing spades. It's just so many moments that I just had such a good time with, and it is a true crowd pleaser. Like, I saw this with a general audience. There weren't many critics there, and it was just a good time, a good vibe in the theater. But hey, it's not all sun and rainbows. There are some criticisms I want to mention to you all. Starting off with, it is a horror comedy, and to me, as a horror fan, I'm not gonna lie, I wish the kills were more creative, because it is a rated R film, and it was just a couple bow and arrows being shot at people. I wish it was a little bit more visceral, a little bit more bloody, being a horror fan. But also, going to the horror side of it, I just wish that it was a little bit more balanced. The comedy is the standout in this movie, but again, as a horror fan, I just wish it was a little bit more focused on the horror elements and it was a better balance between the two different genres. But getting into a kind of in the same vein, the killer plot and the reasoning felt a bit predictable to a certain extent. Now, at the end of the day, again, it's a horror comedy. I know they're poking fun of, it's a very self-aware film, and they're also making fun of horror movies, but I do wish that the killer and the reason why they were doing what they're doing was just a little bit more creative in that department. I wish they handled it a little bit differently. And lastly, when it comes to the jokes in the first half, and just the first half in general, as far as the pacing, the story, and the setup of it all, to me was the weakest element of the film. But once things really get going and we have like our group introduced to the killer, that's when the film took off to me. So those are my main pros, those are my main cons. Before I give you all my overall thoughts and let you know if you should see this film in theaters, if you stuck around to this point in the review, I really appreciate y'all. With that being said, overall, this was definitely a crowd-pleasing film with a lot of great laughs, some really solid direction, and an incredibly likable characters, and the cast is worked on so many levels. Overall, I recommend you all to give The Blackening a watch when it comes out on June 16th. I'm going to give this film a solid 3 out of 5. And look, again, it's surrounded by The Flash, Indiana Jones a couple weeks later. We have Elementals, we have Transformers. There's a lot going on when this film is coming out. So I say all that to say, if you get the opportunity to see it in theaters, definitely support the film. But if not, if you miss out, because I know money's tight, it's 19 different movies coming out this month, try to give this a watch when it is available on streaming if you can't enjoy it in the theater. So that's my thoughts on The Blackening. I want to know y'all's in the comments below. What did you like? What did you love? What were some things that didn't work for you all? Let's talk about it in the comments below. Thank you once again for watching today's review. Just a friendly reminder before you all leave to consider liking the video, sharing the video, leaving your thoughts in the comments section, of course, and always consider subscribing to the channel and hit that notification bell. As you can see on the screen now, click the button right here. Come and join the fam. Check out all my reviews I've done so far this year. Check out my most recent review, and I'll catch you all on the next video.